Color infrared photography. It's definitely easier with a digital camera. I don't like things being easier though. I prefer a challenge. Hence why I worked retail for 15 years. If you've been following this channel and my efforts to create compelling color infrared photos, you know I use a technique known as Trichrome photography. Trichrome photography consists of taking 3 identical black and white photos, one with a red filter, one with a green filter, and one with a blue filter, to make one color photograph. To create an infrared trichrome though, you need to start off with a film stock that's sensitive to infrared light, such as Ilford SFX 200 or Rollei Infrared 400. Next, you're going to go out and take your 3 identical photographs with your filters, but you're going to replace your red filter with an infrared filter, such as a Hoya R72. After shooting, developing, and scanning, you want to take your photographs and turn them into a positive. I do this using Negative Lab Pro within Lightroom. After that though, you want to take these photos and put them into Photoshop. Once in Photoshop, you want to stack each corresponding photo into an RGB channel. Infrared to red, green to green, blue to blue. Once this is done, you'll have to align each channel, but you should have a color infrared photo, just like these. I've been complaining about my Tiffin green filter for a while. My exposures are coming out too dark, adding to the contrast of my photos, which is not what I prefer. So I ended up switching out the Tiffin green filter for a Hoya X1 green filter. I was unaware if this would make a significant change, but I was willing to take the risk to see if this could be a better alternative. So you guys know I love experimenting with filters and film. So just changing one filter, that wasn't enough. I ended up changing out 3 filters on this round. So along with the X1 filter, I ended up buying a Hoya X0 yellow-green filter and a Hoya orange filter. Having used both a red filter and a yellow filter before in my work, I felt an orange filter would be a perfect in-between for my work, both for black and white and trichromes. As for the Hoya yellow-green filter, I was unsure if this would actually work for an infrared trichrome, but if it failed, at least I have it for some black and white environmental portrait work. I'm not too sure why I chose Point Defiance for today's shoot. I never seemed to create my best work here. Hoping that the color infrared photos I was about to take would redeem this location, I loaded up some Ilford SFX 200 into my Canon EOS 30. Trichromes are created by taking 3 identical photos and layering them. Tri equals 3. I shot with 5 filters today, so I can make multiple different types of trichromes. So you don't get confused though, I've labeled each set for you. And as we go forward on this color infrared journey, just know they'll be in the same order. From the beach, I made my way to the woods, looking for some more solid compositions. After all, there's more vegetation in the woods.
For for those of you who don't know, I've been over here at Point Defiance Park here in the north end of Tacoma. I've been looking for new areas and new scenes to kind of take some trichromes of. It's been the first sunny day in a really long time, so I'm kind of taking advantage of it. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of plant life really. There's all the evergreens, of course, but everything's still kind of dead. We're coming right out of winter, so I'm not really being too inspired here, which is a shame. I really do like being in this park. It's lovely. But I think I might have to move and go check out some other places to try to do these trichromes at. Let's go.
This photo has some interesting artifacts on the right hand side, but that's pretty much all I like about it. My exposures are way off on this photo of Mount Rainier, as you can tell by the over magenta look. I'm unsure if this was because of reflective light or another issue. Despite using aperture priority, something tricked the camera. From the Ruston waterfront, I made my way over to Day Island, and if these locations are starting to seem familiar, it's because I was working on this video alongside my Cat Labs 100 review. I actually find it pretty easy to forget that these color infrared photos are taken on black and white film. Each filter isolates different color wavelengths, creating unique black and white photos, which form these trichromes. The infrared filter produces iconic white vegetation and darkened skies. The orange filter creates dark skies, making clouds pop. My green filter isn't great, but less contrasty than my older one, with more shadow detail. The yellow-green filter is quite solid. I might use this for more regular black and white work. The blue filter? It's definitely doing its blue filter thing. Having finished up the SFX 200, I decided on loading up some Rollei Infrared 400. For this roll, I tried something a little different. I looked for some more mundane environments and subdued compositions. When creating infrared trichromes, I tend to chase epic landscapes, such as national parks. But maybe the color infrared look can look good anywhere. I've mentioned before that Rollei Infrared 400's higher contrast isn't ideal for color infrared photos, at least in my opinion. Even though Rollei Infrared 400 is more sensitive to infrared light than SFX, I prefer the look of SFX more. These trichromes are a perfect example. The harsh midday light makes for some contrasty scenes, and the intense shadow drop-off with the Rollei film stock is less than ideal. Don't get me wrong, I love Rollei Infrared 400. I'd just rather use it for black and white work. To be honest, none of these photos are outstanding, by any means, but they do showcase what infrared trichrome photography looks like when paired up with Rollei Infrared 400. So I ended up taking a few weeks off this project, and photography in general. I just wasn't feeling it. I lacked inspiration on this project, and the gloomy spring weather, it wasn't helping. However, with a sunny forecast on the horizon, me and Claire booked it to the Washington coast for an overnight trip. Eager to shoot, I grabbed some Ilford SFX 200 and loaded it up into my Canon EOS 30. Feeling a bit rusty, I set up the tripod and took my first trichrome. That's bad. We're about a quarter mile away from anything interesting, there's hardly any vegetation, and half these photos, they were underexposed, making for a dull trichrome. This honestly isn't a great start, and hopefully I improve. Leaving the beach, I found a composition I absolutely loved, so I'll show all the black and white photos before I show the trichromes. The scene is definitely more dynamic, and the vegetation, it's pink. But some of the exposures could be better. I'm not too sure what compelled me to take a second set of trichromes here at this location, but this time vertical. But I'm happy I did, because these might be the best photos of the trip. colors are fantastic and the composition is great. This just works. I'm not too sure which set I prefer, but I think the 2 with the yellow-green filter might be the best. From Ruby Beach, we made our way back down south, making multiple stops. I only brought the Canon out one more time. The next morning, tired and needing coffee, Claire and I ran off to see the Tree of Life. The weather was typical for the Washington coast, cold, damp, and gloomy. Still, I knew that infrared light was present, even on cloudy days. What I didn't know though is that the infrared look would be more subdued and that the other color filters would struggle with the limited light.
He's in the shirt that I bought him. He's in the shirt that I bought him. Yeah.
I could have spent hours editing the black and white photos and then editing the Trichrome photos, but I wanted to show an honest representation of these conditions. Don't get me wrong, I did edit these photos, but I kept them to a minimum to keep for a more accurate example.
Yellow-green.
If you're more interested in what a heavily edited photo looks like, here's one I did as an example. Even though these trichromes didn't turn out the way I wanted them to, I'm glad I experimented by shooting trichromes on a gloomy day, because it's just going to tell me in the future, it's best to wait for some clear conditions. Hopefully I just remember that though, so I can save myself some time and money in the future.
Let's do a vertical.
So at this point, I ended up finishing up the roll of SFX 200 and calling this attempt done. I didn't really have any more inspiration to continue my color infrared photography session. However, when laying out this video, I realized I was only showing you standard outcomes when it comes to trichrome photography. Technically, you can layer your photos any way you like in your RGB channel, and when you don't follow the order of operations, let's just say things get interesting. For example, let's try an infrared green yellow-green filter mashup, or an infrared yellow-green green combination. Honestly, these look great in my opinion. I might actually go back and reorganize some of these photos in this combination. Well, let's reverse the order now. Let's do blue, orange, infrared, and then let's do infrared, blue, orange. These combinations kind of give off a Lomochrome look, kind of like Lomo turquoise or Lomo purple. Next, let's do blue, infrared, orange, and orange, infrared, blue. kept the vegetation green, but changed the color of the sky completely. What if we took the infrared filter out completely? What would happen if we did orange, green, blue? The orange filter brings out an infrared color scheme, but it's definitely more contrasty and less vibrant. As for green, yellow, green, blue, I regret making this combination. It just didn't turn out well. Well, that's everything I can think of when creating color infrared trichromes. I do really enjoy making these photos because they slow me down and challenge my perspective. Not every photo is a winner and you burn a lot of film, but sometimes you end up with something interesting. That, and they make you think about color theory in a new and interesting way. Besides changing my filters for a third time, I don't really know what to discuss when it comes to infrared trichrome photography. I haven't covered scanning, editing in Photoshop, or editing in Lightroom, so if you're interested in a tutorial on that process, leave a comment down below. If there's enough interest, I'll create a video on the back end work of creating a color infrared photo. Maybe when creating that video though, I'll get so overwhelmed trying to show you basic photo editing techniques that I'd quit YouTube for good with no notice.